So we've spoken already about quite a range of topics. We've gone through a lot of different things, companies that we've worked with, the ideas of, whether there's a solution or if there's not, whether we build one. And we've also thrown around the term hybrid, virtual and in-person, and obviously podcast. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's quite obvious because we're literally here doing that. Perhaps we could give a bit of grounding for people watching what they are, because actually that seems like quite a stopping point. And especially as we were coming out of COVID, people would say, I've got an event. You'd be like, great, is it in person? Is it virtual? Is it hybrid? They'd be like, well, I don't know. I haven't actually heard those terms before. It's just an event. And then you'd be like, have you got remote speakers? Oh, I have. Okay, so we've got a hybrid event then. Yeah. So maybe you could sort of have a little look at what they are.
Yeah, it's interesting because in the event planners world, all of those terms mean something. There might be slightly different interpretations on them. But when you're speaking to clients, they just know, I want an event and I want it to do this. But in answer to the question, in person is purely when you've got people physically meeting at a venue, they can see each other, they can shake each other's hand, they can do all the normal things that you do when you bump into somebody in person.
So thinking like, I don't know, I keep saying COVID obviously, but pre-COVID. Yeah. That's kind of the deal, isn't it?
It was, yeah, very much. And that's traditionally been, it goes back to, Roman times and before. There's always been celebrations, people come together for weddings, for funerals, all sorts of stuff, but you're physically able to see and hear and smell the person, if you want. But when it comes to virtual is everyone meeting online. So there's a web link. So whether you're a speaker or you're the production crew or you're an attendee, you're all meeting online through whichever link you've been given. That's it. So there's no
venue.
There's no venue.
The venue is the virtual space.
Whilst you're away having your in-person refreshment break at a venue, what are you leaving the virtual audience doing? Yeah. Are you interviewing other speakers? Are you saying, oh, we forgot you?
Well, that was the problem, I thought. People were treating a hybrid event as an in-person event that had people watching on a computer.
That's right.
And it was just like, would you like to see a full screen camera or a graphic? Well, actually, I'd quite like to be involved, And like you say, with break times, it's a different experience. Yeah, you can put a holding slide up and some music if you want your audience to walk away. Yeah. And sometimes you do like that. Actually, if the day is learning, you want them to do that. But at the same time, if your audience could benefit in a different way, why would you not?
Yeah. And when you're doing those kind of things, you need to let the attendees know where you want the questions to go. Because if they put it in chat, or are they going to put it on an app? Are they going to put it on a Slido? Where is it going to go?
Yeah, don't put it in 6 places.
Precisely. And that was another kind of rookie error in the beginning. But certainly when we had COVID, what happened was that people did what you've just said. They would copy and paste an in-person program and say, right, virtual audience, there you go. And they'd call them an audience rather than participants. And again, that doesn't get much involvement. But then we had the other extreme when people couldn't meet in person anywhere and the whole thing was purely virtual. You had a situation where you had programs of, 8 hours that was jam-packed, stream after stream, no break. But hold on, these virtual attendees need to grab a coffee, have a break.
It's the same as in person though, because people have overlooked the same things. Yeah. Like, can I bombard you with information for hours without a break? And if you get up, you'll miss stuff and you'll feel completely isolated. Yeah. And not actually thinking about how much their brain can take before it does need a break.
And for both sides, if you are a delegate and you're at a hybrid event and you are there in person, you know that you're going to get breaks to move around. to have some food, to connect with other people, a bit of networking, whatever. You need to be thinking about what you're doing with the virtual audience as well when it comes to design these programs, so that you might even have a less of a shorter program, but you may have spots in there where you bring potentially both audiences, both sets of participants together. There's no reason why you can't do that. No reason why you can't have shared experiences going on, which is another of the beauties of hybrid. Get all of that diversity of thinking.
I think we actually did that again with one of these largest events, where we had feeds coming in from Orlando, and we were sending feeds back. We were in control of what they saw on the screens in the room, on the big projector screens. It wasn't the people in the venue. That was our feed going into them. So we had the choice. And this was the point as well, like you say, about choosing what people online and in the room saw. So we were actually able to put people that were online and like gallery view kind of scenario on the screens, which also felt for the people that were online like they were relevant and engaged and acknowledged. So that was like obviously a wow for them. But then obviously their content wasn't just them coming back at them. Their content was what was going on.
Hybrid events are, you can put them together in many shapes. So if you choose to do the combination of in-person and virtual, and you decide you're going to have a hybrid event, it doesn't mean that you have to fly, 1,000 people into one destination to be there as the in-person folk. You could actually have your hybrid event in different territories, in different regions.
But that's where I think it's going, because if you have venues that are more local to each area, and they can connect in a way, whereas before you'd connect, the connection might be dodgy, might not work, you'd get loads of dropout, things like that. But if they can connect and that latency is like under half a second, surely that's really powerful. Not only for that, and sort of going off on one really, but also for the environmental aspects. We're not creating a bigger carbon footprint. We're not traveling everywhere. We are using power at home and we are consuming in different ways, but I think the impact is a lot less.
Well, there's actually quite a lot of food waste that goes on at conferences.
Well, just heating the venue as well,
Now, you're not going to have food waste in your own home because you know what you want to eat, right? So, but the other thing that we haven't talked about is the issue hybrid events across time zones. If you do have a hybrid event and you do have it in multiple locations, that can work pretty well because people can dip in and dip out according to their time zone. I think one of the things that's changed or should be changing with the events sector or whoever event planners is the fact that we live in a hybrid world. So if I get lost and I need to contact you to say, where's your offices? Where are you? Where's the studio? I can either pick up the phone and ring you, or I can send you a text, or I can WhatsApp you, or I can do a video conference. I can do all of those things. And
just from your phone.
That's right. And I'm not consciously making a decision based on anything other than convenience. And I think what all of this tech does in these different event formats enables organizations and companies to really do is to say, we need some of that because this is the way we want this. They don't even need to tell us what type they want. They just have to say, what do you want to achieve?
Well, virtual as well is really cost efficient because you're not booking a venue, you're not doing transport, you're not doing all of those things, food, like you said, all of those things. You just need to be occupied with what you're producing and making that happen and streaming it at the point at which you choose. But you're not consuming as much, stuff.
No, and you're keeping the inclusive door open. You're making accessibility simpler, and you're doing all of those kind of good things that
if that's
weren't there a few years ago.
Well, exactly, and that's the one thing that sort of comes from that is that are people even aware that these options are options? Because I don't think they are. I don't think a lot of people have. I feel like the bus is sort of literally just arriving for some people.
Yeah.
And they're just looking at it going, oh, right, well, everyone else has done a virtual thing.
Yeah.
Maybe I should.
Yeah.
But they're not understanding the reasons why.
Yeah.
And also not understanding that what they can produce is something that's actually TV broadcast quality.
Yeah.
What they're thinking is web camera, Zoom.
Yeah. They're not thinking this.
No, not at all. Not at all.
They're not in a studio. They're not aware that there are cameras around. They're not kind of to that same degree. And it is a shame. But I think it would be more of a shame if the events folk and senior leadership teams in organizations didn't say, okay, we've got this is a message. How are we going to get it out there? Because everything is ready.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, we have stable connections. We can bring all sorts of people in. If somebody is in an area where it maybe the connection isn't so good, where you can pre-record them. You don't have, not everybody needs to be live at an event.
Well, we've got a thing coming up shortly whereby it will be from the Pembrokeshire coast.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is around connectivity. But how would you do that? And you can. That's the point. You can. You have to use like sort of bonded routers, things like that, to make sure you've got your connection. But it's entirely plausible. And in terms of cost around it, you're actually looking at deploying a team of 3 people with cameras and streaming equipment, not moving 200, 300, 400 people globally in the same way. So obviously, the cost is significantly less.
Well, for me, the kit is interesting. The first time that I did a hybrid event for someone, and the kit was minimal, and it could be taken up on a train.
Yeah.
The client was expecting a lorry load of kit to come out, and we didn't need to do that.
No,
it's dead easy, and it's getting even better.
But this is the thing, that's what I'm saying about taking things from broadcast standard, because it's not new in a sense of being done before.
Yeah.
It's the way it's being done, and the way that the technology is more accessible. Because obviously before, with the news, it would be a BBC broadcast truck.
Yeah.
They are not small.
No.
Right? And that would be the solution.
That's right.
But now the solution is actually, and I've seen it done to varying degrees of success, shall we say, on like BBC News, as you said, where they will just be joining from a Zoom call.
Yeah. I think the catalyst for a lot of that was when COVID was on, because obviously you couldn't send out trucks of people to do these things. So I think we got used to it as a viewing population, that some scientist would appear from their bedroom almost, or their lounge or whatever, and say, right, the latest is blah, blah, blah. And for event planners to understand that, all of that is still possible. You do not need to fly the speaker over. You do not need to put them up. You can do multiple things with your speaker. They can still charge you a decent fee for doing that. But all of the other things that you'd normally have to worry about, looking after them, hosting them, have they got the right transfer, all of that just goes.
I wonder if there's space now, like obviously, in terms of the sort of general ecosystem of whole of events. Obviously you get agencies which deal with things in a different way, which I quite often feel like we sort of bridge into actually. But the need for someone to communicate with for, whatever it is that you want your message to be and whatever program of events you've got coming up, to actually work out what it is you do want in that way, because there's quite an advantage to having the knowledge of all of these things, in person, hybrid, virtual, and what they can do, and then actually deploying when to use what. I think that's obviously something that needs to be done, but I still feel
that's the work I enjoy doing.
Well, exactly. And that is, I think that's one of the best rewards, because then when you're doing those things, you know that they're being used to their full potential.
Yeah.
You're not just watching thinking, oh, that's a podcast, but that really should have been a hybrid event, or, you know, different things like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, I mean, that covers those things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose really we could wrap up at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we say thank you. It's been good to chat. And normally these conversations are sort of confined to just us on the phone.
Yeah, that's right.
Sort of bouncing ideas around and things. But no, thank you.
No, thank you for having me.